just a fantasy? 'Cause the unknown's pulling me. We could leave this place, freedom ours to chase. What if I escape with you? What if I escape with you? What if I escape with you? What if I escape with you?
Yeah. It's a lot of into the club tonight. What? But it's gonna be alright. Yeah. Cause me and my clique, we don't give a fuck. Trick Daddy, you got it. Let's go. If you want it, you can get it. Let me know. I want to break this thing up. Let's go. If you want it, you can get it. Let me know. I want to break this thing up. Let's go. If you want some, come get some.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to FTW Future Focus, and it is on once again for Old School Edition, and that means I'm doing your introductions. I am your not-so-humble correspondent, Robert Black, and joining us today, we're going to go clockwise. We have with us from Chicago, Illinois, the silent but deadly AEW He-Man Woman Hater, the wonderful, marvelous Marcus Buckley. How you doing, sir?
Okay, hell of an introduction. Okay.
Thank you. And above him, we have the master and president of Motown Wrestling Group on Facebook, the master of wine, women, song, and cigars. He is Tony Motown Allen. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. I don't have my wine, but I got my beer and cigars. The only thing I'm missing is Mandy Rose.
Remember, thank you for joining us is back on, but we'll get there later.
All right.
And at the top of our screen, we have the founder of our feast, the president of FTW Network, a former professional wrestler and fantastic producer of entertainment galore. He is the mastermind, Bobby Rogers. How are you, good sir?
I'm all right. That was pretty cool. I can't say that I'm like that, but I mean, no, honestly, I'm not like that. But I appreciate it. That's kind of cool. Thank you.
How do I follow that though? What's he gonna say for me after he said all that? Bobby, I'm sitting over here like you're the man.
No, it's gonna be like, and then it's Chris.
And then there's Chris. Like, damn, Rob, that was fantastic. I'm gushing over what you said for Bobby. Damn, that was fantastic. You got to introduce him like that from now on.
Hey,
wow.
Hey, just the volume on your mic, Chris. Hold on, the volume on your mic, Chris. Bring it down a little bit. The volume.
All right. How's that?
Go ahead.
Last but certainly not least, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the finest wrestling connoisseurs, a wonderful human being, a great roadie, and perhaps the most polite and sincere gentleman in the face of the wrestling industry. He is Chris the Gadgetman Woods. Much love to you, sir. Welcome to the program.
Hey, I'm glad you noticed that about me, Rob. Thank you. And hi, fellas.
Hold on.
Hey, I didn't say the Uncle Phil thing.
Damn, man, you just blew my thing. I was just about to bring that on.
I'm like, damn, but you just said it. When you said it like that, Rob, you didn't have to say that.
I directed at you. No, absolutely not.
If he wasn't coming with it, I was. I mean,
I know Rob think he's slick. Y'all he been hanging around y'all too long. Rob think he's slick. I got you, Rob. That's one. That's strike one, Rob. That's strike one. Okay.
I'll put the rest of them in the dirt, I swear. And now, since we are old school today, I'm going to turn the comm over to Tony Motown Allen. Take it away, Mr. Host.
All right, definitely looking forward to this episode. We got some exciting things going on, but the very first thing we're going to discuss, and I don't know how many viewers have watched like a long time ago when we used to have our one-on-ones where like two people go head to head on a topic. And you guys can vote in the comments on who you think did better. We can also vote in Motown's wrestling group, but the three not involved will be picking a winner when this debate is over. Today's debate is with the Gadget Man, the Gadget brother, Chris Woods, and your not so humble correspondent, Robert Black. What they would be discussing, I think everybody knows, like the WWE success was laid out because of WrestleMania. And arguably, in my opinion, the most important WrestleManias were the first three WrestleManias.
Yes.
And when you look at the first three WrestleManias, there's like two guys that had the most impact on those first three.
Yes, sir.
Hulk Hogan and Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
Yes, sir.
So Robert Black and Christopher Woods is going to be debating on who was more important, Hulk Hogan or Vince McMahon. They're going to take turns. So they're going to go for 2 minutes each, lay out their points, and then once those 2 minutes are up, they would get a 1 minute rebuttal. Now, we haven't decided who's going to go first. I'll be honest with you, the only person I know the age is Marcus because he's 2 years older than me. So I'm not really sure which one of you two are older. I just know both of you guys are younger than Bobby. Who is the oldest between you two?
Ain't that a bitch?
My birthday is July 26 of 77. If Chris beats that, he gets to go first.
I'm October 2nd of 77.
Dang, you
Wow.
both babies.
Okay, well, I guess that means that I get to go first.
You both are babies.
All right, 2 minutes.
All right, so go ahead, kick it off. You got 2 minutes, Rob, and go.
All right, since I am the only Hulk Hogan fan on this panel, it should be no
On this earth.
Wouldn't go that far, but I would say that as far as the first three WrestleManias go, Hogan's influence was probably the most indispensable. Now, that does not mean that Vince McMahon didn't have the vision for the event. Of course he did, and he was the guy behind the marketing, behind the push for national expansion. The reason that Hogan is indispensable, especially for 1 and 3, is that there was really no other headliner on earth that Vince McMahon had access to at that time that could have carried WrestleMania. He didn't have Flair, he didn't have Dusty, and any other guy who could have carried it was coming down the pike, or they either didn't have enough national exposure. JYD maybe could have done it, but I doubt it. If it were up to me, he would have replaced Mr. T in the main event of 1. That would have been extraordinary, but I don't think Junkyard Dog alone could have main evented the first 3 WrestleManias. You got Snuka, who, if they had cultivated him and put the belt on him after Backlund, then maybe that would have worked, but it wasn't in the cards because of the certain things that we don't really want to talk about. Number 3, anybody else that could have carried that, Kerry Von Erich, Magnum TA, they either weren't there, they weren't mature enough, or they simply didn't have the exposure. Hulk Hogan was the only guy that could have pulled that off, especially at 3 with Andre. So if you're talking about the first 3 WrestleManias, then Hogan is like the indispensable element.
All right, cool. All right, good job, Rob. Chris, I hope you're ready.
Yeah, that wasn't the question. I knew he was going to come with that. He basically made most of my argument. Vince McMahon at some point when he started buying up all the talent at all the territories, figured out wrestling was entertainment, and he created WrestleMania. And his target for WrestleMania to get the audiences and to build up his what we would call wrestling fans today, which I think he built them up in the 80s. He targeted the music fans. He had one of the biggest stars at the first WrestleMania. Oh God,
Mr. T.
my head. What was her name?
I'm talking Cyndi Lauper.
Cyndi Lauper was one of the biggest stars, so you got that MTV crowd. You got Mr. T, one of the biggest TV stars, so you got Hollywood looking. Then you got Liberace and the Rockettes, so you got Las Vegas looking in on them. Yes, Hulk Hogan was indispensable, being that he was the superhero and becoming the biggest star at the time. But I mean, that was once again a Vince McMahon. We're talking about him being the machine. That was Vince McMahon, another Vince McMahon creation. He took a Hulk Hogan, a guy from the AWA, snatched him up, a guy with charisma, and he put him in that superhero role. Every position Hulk Hogan was put in, Vince McMahon set up the storyline. WrestleMania 2, Hulk Hogan versus Bundy. WrestleMania 3, who do you think booked the biggest match in WrestleMania history? Only Vince McMahon could have booked that match. Vince McMahon gave the fans what they wanted. Hogan versus Andre the Giant. Macho Man versus Ricky Steamboat. Once again, and like I said, and making it about entertainment. Aretha Franklin was there. Bob Uecker. Alice Cooper. And then WrestleMania 2, I didn't mean to skip over. What happened that year? The Chicago Bears win the Super Bowl. You got a Battle Royal with the Refrigerator Perry there. So now you got football fans tuning in. All right. Go ahead. Basically, I'm saying he brought the entertainment factor, and that's where the creation of Hogan came from.
All right, cool. All right, good job on your 2 minutes. Rob, you got 60 seconds to rebut him.
Okay. Chris, you make some excellent points, and none of them are wrong. There's only two things that you're missing. Number one, Hulk Hogan had a tremendous following that was national in the AWA before he went to the WWF. So he wasn't a complete invention of Vince McMahon. That's why he had a lot of star power to begin with, and he brought it to the WWF with him. That's the first thing. Number two, Vince McMahon, with WrestleMania 1 especially, was kind of like the producers of the James Bond films, Broccoli and Solston. It was all or nothing. If WrestleMania had gone broke, if they had lost money the first time, then none of the exposure would have mattered. Vince McMahon made himself more vulnerable in that time than he ever did at any other time in his life. So Hogan was a secure bet.
All right. Chris, you got 60 seconds to wrap this up.
I'm always curious, had the Iron Sheik actually broke Hogan's leg, what would McMahon have done? He would have had to push somebody else's ass. Maybe he would have found, hired Dusty Rhodes. I always say maybe what ifs, but McMahon is always, he's the comeback guy. He'll find a way. We've always had the argument, if Hogan didn't exist, they would have found somebody. I do think if they could have kept JYD clean, JYD could have been that guy for a while, for a little bit. I'm being honest with you. A clean JYD, he had 4 or 5 moves just like Hulk Hogan did, but he was an entertainer and he was charismatic. So I do think Hogan could have been replaced. And I'm not going to believe that Hulk Hogan is the only guy that you could have put there, especially with Vince McMahon being the promoter he was in the 80s.
All right, cool. Definitely some good arguments. Between the arguments, I know who I'm leaning towards as far as winning this, but there's going to be a little twist to this whole debate. We're about to hear from one more person on this. Mastermind, take it away.
Oh, I feel like Slim Shady right about now.
This was the setup.
My thing is,
I just wait to see who's which one he's setting up.
I have a totally different view on this from both of you guys. But it actually incorporates both of you guys. When you look at the business of pro wrestling has to have an attraction. It has to have somebody to go to and see. You got to be interested in somebody on that card, or it's just people flipping each other around like Aunt Jemima pancakes. So, I mean, just being real. Hulk Hogan was that guy at that time, perfect place. Everything positive happens that way. You're at the perfect time, perfect place, and you blow up. Hulk Hogan was that guy, and honestly, he could have tried to find someone else to do it, but at that time, with that climate, with the clientele he had, Hulk Hogan was that man that he wanted to see. That clientele that was paying that money wanted to see somebody like Hulk Hogan. As much as I dislike him, that's just the way it is. But at the same time, even though you might be that magnetic, you need somebody to promote it and put that marketing scheme together for people to buy them tickets. And you know what? Vince McMahon was that man. He was that genius. He knew how to grab the people and to go ahead and have them buy them tickets. Cyndi Lauper and them, great things, but they were second. It was about Hogan and McMahon combining together to make that dynamic and to make the WWE what it is today. That's why my argument is, guess what? Neither of them were more important than the other.
First of all, before we make our vote, I'm gonna throw a name out there.
I want to say one more thing though. Even though I said that about Hogan, it was all positive. Fuck Hulk Hogan. Anyway, go ahead.
I don't know what he was doing at the time all this was going on, but when they started pushing Hulk Hogan, Vince McMahon could have gave that money to the original Hulk Hogan and been just a success.
Superstar Billy Graham.
Exactly.
If he was there 10 years later, yeah, he was just 10 years too early.
I mean, yeah, but I'm saying at that specific time. You know what I'm saying?
But Hogan looked like a superhero. That's why it worked too.
Right.
And he could talk. A lot of the big dudes couldn't talk. Hogan could talk, and he looked like a superhero. So it worked. I understand that. I agree.
Think about this. I mean, think about back then. What was coming out that everybody started gravitating towards, especially when it came to children and some adults?
He-Man.
Yeah.
That's one. That's one. That's one of the main ones.
He-Man, Conan,
but not
superheroes.
But see, that's where I'm going is the superheroes. You had Batman coming out doing his thing.
Incredible Hulk, Hogan. The name even grabs you.
Synonymous. And then you also had people think the Transformers is funny, and why would I compare the Transformers to wrestling? But if you think about all the episodes, it was almost identical.
Yeah,
the Transformers and professional wrestling were almost synonymous.
Good guys versus bad guys. Heels and baby faces.
And Megatron was an ass. Finally, they beat him, and what the hell comes next was Galvatron, a bigger ass. Just like pro wrestling. You got Piper. Oh, what the hell? Who's going to be the bigger asshole now? Uh-oh, now, in today's era, you got MJF.
Right.
So.
All right, but we got to pick a winner on this one. Bobby, you said that both of them, so that leaves Marcus. Who do you say won this debate? You say Hogan, Vince McMahon, or both?
No, I say Vince. To me, it's comparable to, we've had this debate in years in Chicago. Who was more responsible for the Bulls dynasty, Jerry Krause or Michael Jordan? And I say Jerry Krause.
Right.
Just because he put the pieces behind.
What?
He put Jordan. Jordan didn't do shit by himself, so he got help, which was responsible for Jerry Krause.
And he put the coach in place.
Jordan used to get his ass whooped every year in the playoffs until he got Pittman, till he got Cartwright, till he got so and so and so and so. But get back into the question, to me, the person most responsible for one was Roddy Piper, more so than Hogan, because everybody wanted to see Piper get his ass whooped for up Lauper and all that kind of stuff. And who put him there? Vince. Vince set everything up. You know, he put everything around Hogan, the machine, the opponents. You know, I mean, think about a heel Andre the Giant. Who didn't want to see the big heel get taken down? So to me, Chris won with Vince.
And I'm gonna have to agree with Marcus on this. I'm also picking Chris on this one. because he also picked on the same argument that I always had too. I think Vince was the puppet master in the whole thing. We all say that, like, I think the reason why we don't see somebody else being in that role is because they didn't push somebody else in that role. They started pushing Hogan years before the first WrestleMania. If you would have invested that same creativity in somebody else, I think they would have made another megastar. It was, to me, it was Vince, Vincent, Kennedy, McMahon, the genetic jackhammer. Robbie did an excellent job. Chris, I'm pretty surprised.
Yeah.
This was fun.
Chris, you got your win back.
It wasn't 2-on-1. It was 1-on-1 because I still have to say
you owed me one, so you got me. That's all.
I still have to say that I mean, the way I look at it, and this comes out to me the way I do shows whenever I do shows. I am no bigger than the components of what I have to play with on my canvas. And I don't mean to degrade any workers out there that's listening. I don't think of you as toys. I'm not Tony Khan, okay?
I think of Mandy Rose as a toy.
Oh, God.
Thank you for joining us on FTW Future Focus.
But
we're back in the saddle.
The thing is that I have people that I can fit into a story in a certain way, but they got to have that talent to pull that off. I could do all the promoting. I could do all the shouting. I do all the jumping up and down, just like they was doing Roman Reigns at first. He was promoting him. He was pushing him. He was trying to put him out there. And guess what? The fans said, hell no. Screw him. He had to get leukemia.
That ain't even help. That ain't even help.
It helped a little bit, though. It softened people up. It did soften people up. It softened me up a little bit, too. Because I think about leukemia and I think about my mom with cancer, so.
I know, but my mom's friend had leukemia too, though, so I definitely get it, though. But I just talk about with the fans. He got one thing on. That was Paul Heyman.
Yeah, I got to agree with that too. Yeah, Paul Heyman. But again, another piece of the puzzle, which I know it sounds like it's going towards more of Chris's argument, but I also got to say they got to perform to the level to keep people interested. They can give them all the good roles all day. If they don't perform it, if it doesn't fit them, and that's where you got to determine which one it is. It's both of them that connects, that makes a dynamic.
I mean,
show.
What if they would have got a Lex Luger in '85? You don't think Vince could have done something with a Luger?
Hell no.
Maybe.
Luger's a bad example.
I don't know.
Luger.
Bingo Warrior.
Hold on, let me take this back.
The reason I said Luger's a bad example is because they tried.
Yeah.
They failed.
But you know what? I gotta apologize for something because I gotta say this. There is one person I could think of at the time that could have pulled off WrestleMania 1, and that was Ric Flair.
Oh, without a doubt.
And him and Piper had chemistry.
And that's the only one that I could see that could singly attract more people to come to a show
Dusty.
I
don't know, man. Dusty Rhodes?
Dusty
was. Come on, man.
Dusty. Hold on, listen. I love Dusty. 100%.
No.
But the crowd, it's the crowd. I would want Dusty to do it, but I don't think the crowd would have fell for him. I don't.
No, I think they would have. Because if you would have prime Dusty, not the Dusty they got, but like Dusty in his prime with the marketing genius and Vincent.
Fall in love with him.
Dusty was putting his asses in the seats in the NWA with them not knowing how to promote like that.
Just give him the mic.
Oh yeah, I agree. But I'm just looking at the crowd. You look at the NWA crowd. It's just like now with AEW and WWE almost.
Right.
You look at the crowd, and I'm not going to say AEW crowd. I'm going to say look at the Young Bucks crowd. They cannot stand anything that WWE does. It could be a good match, and they can't admit, oh, well, that was a good match. They say, oh, that sucked because Vince and blah, 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 and my panties are going down. It gets on my nerves. It does. I mean, you got these Young Buck fans that get on my freaking nerves. They are soft as their wrestlers are. I'm just going to keep it 100. And it's you would never get that portion. But an NWA could get that portion that didn't like the mainstream. That's what made Dusty go over. But as far as going into the mainstream, the hardcore mainstream, he would have got over. I'm not saying he would have been a slouch, but he wouldn't have got over as a Ric Flair. Ric Flair
Not
would have
Ric
got
Flair.
over.
No,
Yeah.
not as Flair. No.
Okay,
But we gotta get going with the next topic though.
Sorry about that.
yeah.
If y'all want to revisit this, we can always revisit it later.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, no
definitely.
Because this was fun, especially the direction it went. I wasn't expecting that direction. All right, our next topic. We're going to discuss and initially I'd like for everybody to give one, and then if we have time, if y'all want to throw some other names out that haven't been hit on, that's cool too. But we're going to talk about who wrestlers who won titles in other territories before going to the WWF that should have gotten a WWF run as a champion. So these are former champions elsewhere that Vince didn't let get a run in the WWF.
Now, are we talking all titles, or are we just talking the world title?
Like world title, like wherever they're at, the top title in that territory.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
And did they have to be in WWF?
Well, yeah, because
they never got a world title in WWF.
Right, now I'm saying if a guy that won a title, a world title in another territory, but never went for whatever reason, never went to WWF.
I'll let you throw that one out there.
Okay.
All right.
Right, because I got a guy, but he was that.
I'm kind of curious who you're talking about, though, so that's why I'm allowed curiosity.
Cool. Okay.
But for this one, this was actually Chris Wood's question that he brought to us for this, also. He's going to take the lead on this.
All right.
Pay off out, Chris. Pay off out.
Nah, this guy, he was the last NWA champion, and when he won the WCW champion, he got injured. But I always thought if they gave the title to the Warrior, I always thought Ravishing Rick Rude should have had that title around his waist.
Well, catch him off my list on the first go round.
They had a built-in rivalry. I mean, he was the perfect heel. This guy, he had the perfect build, what you want in a heel, going out there, trashing the crowd. He was the kind of heel that you could put him with a manager like Heenan or Paulie, or he could just go out there on his own with the mic and do his own thing. He had a great finisher, believability. I thought he had his punches. I thought he could do a stiff. He's one of the Minnesota boys. I just was a fan. Ravishing Rick Rude, I thought he should have got a shot at the WWE title, at least, had that belt around him at least once. Especially against a Warrior who never deserved it in the first place. But once again, the machine, and look what happened. It didn't work out. So you got guys that deserve title shots and never got a chance. And Ravishing Rick Rude is my number one guy.
And he was on my list as well, too. Thanks, Chris. All right, Rob, you next.
Speaking of the machine and whether it works or not, here's an example of where the machine failed. Vader.
Yes.
Vader should have beaten Michaels for that title instead of Sid. Nothing wrong with Sid, but Vader was a moneymaker, and the WWF machine completely dropped the ball on him. Him with Cornette, especially, he should have gotten that title run, and then they could have gone in from like SummerSlam all the way to the Rumble with that feud. But Michaels wanted to be an unprofessional jerk. And that's what happens when you are an unprofessional jerk. You lose money. And they lost a lot of money by not giving Vader a run with the WWF title. He would have been amazing. He would have dominated the same way he did in WCW. And he was just exactly what Vince wanted. So, yeah, Vader all the way.
He screwed himself in Kuwait, too. Remember, though, once he screwed himself over there and they cost them all that money, they was never putting that belt on him.
Well, maybe
it was still a good pick, though, because Vader should have had a run.
I know it was a great pick, because we all thought he was going to get it.
Yeah.
All right. Mastermind, you are next.
Leon White.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry. I got to agree. And his name came in my. They said my name. The first person said my name. Said the name I was thinking of. And I can't remember it now for some reason. skip me. Come back to me, please.
All right, Marcus, you are up.
Well, I don't think he was ever in WWE. I'm almost certain. But the guy I thought about, especially if he would have put him with Bobby Heenan, was Stan the Lariat Hansen. It's who I was. But
the crazy thing, Marcus, that name was in my head too, but I don't remember him being there.
Oh, okay. I couldn't
He
remember.
was.
He was in WWE. He wrestled in there.
Okay, I couldn't remember, but yeah, I thought he put him with Bobby Heenan. You know, he had the whole cowboy gimmick going on, and with Vince's sick mind and his machine, he could have pushed him up to be a monster.
I thought he wrestled with the Blackjacks.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought, you know, I mean, this is a guy, super mobile, tough as hell. I just thought he would have been great in WWF back then.
Oh, man. He dominated in Japan.
Marcus, you stumbled onto something very, very good because before Vince Jr. took over in the WWF, Stan Hansen actually feuded with Bruno Sammartino and accidentally broke his neck in a match, and they came back with that angle. And if Hansen had beaten Sammartino, he could have been the guy who put over Bob Backlund instead of Superstar Graham. So that's a really interesting scenario you came up with there.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Tony.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right, cool. Go ahead.
I would have to pick somebody. I don't know if he was a champion any place else. But this always stuck in my mind when it would come to people that should have been WWE champion. The first one that always comes to my mind is Mr. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Finally, he's on my list as well.
Yeah, he's on my list.
I mean, that gimmick was the bomb. I mean, I loved it. I mean, his gimmick was, and he was a technical wrestler that was good.
That was the crazy thing with Kurt Hennig, though, because it wasn't even like they did bad booking and bad gimmick with him. The way they booked him, he should have been a champion.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Mr. Perfect was the perfect gimmick to go over, you know, and I don't know what the hell happened. I mean, they slipped on that one. I think Perfect should have been legendary for having that title for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, he's perfect name.
Or at least feuding with Bret Hart. They could have, back and forth with it.
Yeah. I mean, think about this. He has the perfect name for a gimmick, Mr. Perfect. He had the perfect attitude for the gimmick. You know what I'm saying? And not only that, think about if you're running perfect in wrestling, but you cheat all the time to do it. You might have a badass finishing move too, but you cheat also at the same time, which is what he was doing. He was on point. He should have been champ.
Yeah.
And I don't... yeah, that's my pick, Mr. Perfect.
All right. My turn. I have two names left on my list. I'm not going to pick my number one on my list because I want to give a shout out to this other person. Barry Windham.
Yeah.
Barry Windham was one of them.
I knew you was going to pick him.
But the ones left on my list are Dusty Rhodes and Barry Windham.
Yeah. Both of them are good picks.
But Dusty speaks for herself. I just throw Dusty out there. It speaks for itself. Barry Windham, in my opinion, Barry Windham is the victim of being in the era of Ric Flair.
Yeah.
That's like Jordan.
Yeah. Ask Malone about that one.
But and he has no personality either. Flair has all the personality. Windham don't say shit.
Windham, the most personality you got out of Windham was his run with the Horsemen, and I think it was just because they rubbed off on him. He had J.J. Dillon. Yeah. That was the most personality I saw with him as a heel. He had the Horseman swag, which I don't think you can help but have when you rolling with those guys like that. But you're right though. Like if that man was better on the mic, he would have been bigger.
Same thing with Luger. Luger had the exact same problem. He was huge, he was impressive, but he didn't have the charisma.
Or the work ethic too, but
he reminded me of a cocky horse when he talked. Lex Luger, for some reason, when I seen him start talking, he just looked like a horse to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, before we move on, do you guys have any other names that we
I gotta do one honorable mention?
Get me too. I got one more.
Yeah. Out of all the ROH guys that have come over to WWE and won the title, For Samoa Joe not to have won the WWE title to me is a tragedy. I mean, CM Punk's won it. Daniel Bryan. We can go down the line. Samoa Joe should have won that fucking title.
Hold on, if we're going recent, I'm going to go recent on our female side. Let's talk about, well, I can't say Natalia, but let's talk about, what the hell is her name? God dog it.
Piper Niven?
That's one. That's definitely one. But it was one that was back in the day. All right, it was more Attitude Era. I think it was Rights to Censor was the group.
Ivory?
Thank you. Yes. That girl was bad as hell.
Ivory got that belt when she was with them.
She did?
Yeah. She won the title when she was with the Right to Censor.
Yeah.
About time. Okay,
yeah,
good.
but there was no division. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Well, but she was still a badass to represent
She's a pioneer, too. She comes all the way back to Glow.
But I didn't know she won, so that
she's a multiple-time women's champion.
Mark, you say you go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I have a name that will spark you guys' interest in this category. Bam Bam Bigelow.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't sure if Bam Bam won before WWE if he won a title.
Yes, he did. He was the ECW World Champion.
That's right.
That counts.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
That counts.
Yes. Good pick, Rob. Marcus, what's your honorable mention?
Now, I'm not sure he's a world title, but I know he was supposed to win it at 4, and that was $1 Million Man. But Savage.
Talk about somebody that's been a world champion. Absolutely.
But that's completely over. They could have ran with him for a long time.
Definitely. All right, that was good. Those was definitely some good wrestlers that we brought up on that one. All right, our next subject. After the USWA unification of the world title, did you look at it as a unified title? This is a question that Rob had. We tried to get in the last episode, but we ran long. So we're going to touch on it this week. And Rob is going to kick this one off.
Okay. When I was a young Mark, 11, 12 years old, this whole situation stuck in my craw because I was an AWA fan. I wasn't a fan of Lawler or Memphis. And the whole way that the title changed hands in the first place at Super Clash 3 drove me insane. I have always hated that ending every time it's been done, the blood loss thing. And even though it was justifiable with Von Erich, it still was done completely wrong. But the reason that I bring this up, number one, is because I need to apologize to my friend for years of giving him shit for liking Memphis. So, Mikey, if you're out there and you hear this broadcast, I want you to know that I am very sorry. I never gave Memphis a fair chance when I was a young kid because I didn't like Lawler and they compared themselves to WWF. And as much as I say this through gritted teeth, the USWA's world title had a world title lineage. It had a legitimate world title thing, and so Junkyard Dog and Rick Morton all were legitimate world heavyweight champions because of the world-class lineage the belt had. But what I will stick to till my dying breath is that after February of 1989, the USWA's title didn't unify anything. Because when Lawler was a dual champion until the AWA stripped him of their belt. Then he was just the world-class champion. World-class got absorbed and renamed USWA by Memphis. They ran both towns for a little while, and then it just became Memphis again. So the name of the belt was a gimmick. And that's all it was. It was a world title. Yes, by our definition today, world title, but it didn't unify a damn thing because the AWA pulled out of the co-op, and the USWA could have been so much bigger than it was. It stretched from Minnesota to Texas, north to south, and from Louisville, Kentucky to Las Vegas, Nevada, east to west. That's a huge thing. And if the co-op had stuck together and, Vern Gagne and all those other people had like worked together for it, it could have been bigger. But I'm sorry, calling it a unified title was a gimmick, and I apologize to all fans of the USWA for that, but it's just true. Lawler used that belt as a gimmick unto himself to get the promotion over, to keep it alive, and that's just all it was.
I'm actually going to run next on this. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. And this is going to be 15-year-old Tony answering this question, because 15-year-old Tony saw that match in Super Class 3 and was pissed off. Because I really looked at that as an opportunity for them to be one of the big players. For me, it was not a unified world title. Because when 15-year-old Tony was the same as like damn near 50-year-old Tony. 1988, there was one champion. That was Ric Flair.
So stupid.
Okay.
They were wrestling for a secondary title. And unfortunately, and reason I bring up how I felt at the Super Class 3, because I really thought they had opportunity to do something big and they dropped the ball. And I think Super Class 3, I mean, you're talking about an era of Flair and Hogan. If they would have done Super Class 3 right, they could have been competing with them. But the way they finished it, it was a joke. It was just a joke after that.
Yeah, and the wrong guy went over. If Kerry Von Erich had been healthy and they had put the belts on him,
15-year-old Tony was pissed.
Yeah, me too. Hey,
11-year-old. I ain't gonna lie. Even knowing everything that happened, 50-year-old Tony's still a little salty with it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
All right, Marcus, you up?
Absolutely not. Because back then, as far as I was concerned, there were only three organizations that really counted. WWE, but WWF back then, NWA, and AWA. That was all that counts. So a unified champion to me would have been Hogan versus Flair back then, as far as I would have been concerned, because AWA was a distant third to me. So back then, I didn't know who Jerry Lawler was except for in the magazines. That was the only reason I knew who he was. So him wrestling Kerry, Lawler at Memphis was an independent to me. So with Kerry versus Lawler, even though I think Lawler was definitely bigger among the smart fans, to us average wrestling fans, to the 17, 18-year-old Marcus, Kerry was a much bigger star and a guy that should have won and potentially could have, rivaled Hogan and Flair back then.
Yes.
So to me, it wasn't them saying it was unified meant absolutely nothing, because you're unifying a dying AWA with an independent organization. Isn't a unified title on a scale of Flair or Hogan, in my opinion, back then.
All right, great. Mastermind, you are up.
Okay. Yeah, I got to get technical with this one. This one's just gonna blow people's brains away. You talk about a unified title and things of that nature. Well, this is what I look at. Each organization believes the world revolves around them. They are very narcissistic people, okay? We professional wrestling promoters really think about ourselves and like to rub ourselves any kind of way to get over on the show. So, when you come up and you look at, it was a world title, sorry. Just because it's mine. When you talk about degree of titles and what's more important, yes, it would be on the lower half. I would not deny that at all. But they have a legitimate organization with legitimate people, a couple of big names, maybe not as a lot, that do go around the world and wrestle. I mean, think about it. King and Lawler actually probably wrestled around the world more than any champion of WWF had at the time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So they actually were around the world doing their things, and if they're the top people, it's a world championship.
Yeah.
It's unified because you had to unify the two belts together. One's going to inherit the benefits of being a world championship, and if it's an independent that's growing, that boosts their legacy because they had the people in there doing it. I mean, that's just technically what it is.
All right, cool. Good. That was a good take on it. That was definitely a good take.
Yeah, it was a good take.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, after 4 people go, and there's really no meat left, but I'm gonna give it a try. The plan was
chew that fat off the bone.
Well, the plan was when they unified it, because Lawler had different plans when they unified this title. The plan was he was supposed to defend it AWA, WC, CWA. Like he was supposed to actually defend it to all their top guys. And I don't think he ever planned on doing that. You know what I mean? So Vern Gagne says he wasn't showing up to any of the events anymore and stripped him of that title, Rob. Mm-hmm. Are you blaming Lawler or are you blaming Vern Gagne?
When I was a kid, I blamed Lawler because I didn't know the backstory.
Gotcha.
I did talk to the man himself at StarCast 2. I shook Lawler's hand and I asked him point blank, was Super Clash 3 all Vern Gagne's fault? And he said no. Okay. Nobody could make a decision that day. Nobody wanted to look bad. And so
I think it was a bad business deal is what it looked like. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, Lawler kept the actual AWA belt because he didn't get paid that day. And that was one of the reasons that the whole thing fell apart. So, but back then, I did blame Lawler, and to the king. I apologize for that too, sir. When I was a young mark, I blamed you for the death of the AWA, and I was wrong. So that I'll put that out there.
Well, so I'm gonna end mine with I agree with all the points you guys made.
All right.
Got it leaked up.
Right. This next one I'm really looking forward to. Anybody saw the last Old School show know that we did Pick a Side?
Yeah.
We're doing Pick a Side again, and guess what? If you don't like Pick a Side, you don't like Old School because we're doing this shit every show.
Well, Mr. Boss Man.
He trying to be too, ain't he? Got the cigar and everything.
Better watch yourself, you'll be serving hard time. Yeah.
All right, so this week's or this month's edition of Pick a Side, in November of '97 was the infamous Montreal Screwjob. If you don't know what happened at the Montreal Screwjob, you're definitely watching the wrong podcast because this is old school and all old school fans know about the Montreal Screwjob. The nice thing is, and we're not talking about Sonny getting screwed in Montreal.
Damn!
Thank you for joining us on FTW Old School.
Come on, guys. Be good.
Subject edition.
Well, you can't talk about Montreal and some people are involved without bringing up Sonny getting screwed. But the Montreal Screwjob, for those who don't know, Bret Hart did not want to lose a match that he was that they wanted him to lose, and he got screwed. Long story short, and it was always a debate, and a lot of people is on one side or the other. Mm-hmm. Now, some people felt that Vince screwed Bret. Some people agree with Vince. Bret screwed Bret. Pick a side. Who screwed Bret? On this one, we're going to kick this one off with Marcus.
This sounds X-rated when you say it, Tony.
Well, I think Bret screwed Bret on this. Bret grew up in the business. He's a promoter's son. You know, when you leaving, you drop that belt. I mean, so what? It was in Canada. You know, like I've heard a number of other wrestlers say, Bret took himself way too seriously. Yeah, we know Sean was an asshole back then, and according to Bret, he made a respectful comment to him about he wouldn't drop the belt to him, he wouldn't do the same to him, and yada 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 yada. Well, look, whatever. Bret, you know you was leaving. You should have dropped that belt. You call yourself old school, so you know the business. You know how it's supposed to go. So Vince did what he had to do. There was no way he could trust Bret, and to think he would have been he wouldn't have took the belt to Tony to not Tony, took it to Eric Bischoff and in WCW the next night on Nitro, and the same thing Medusa did or whatever. So Vince did what he had to do. Bret screwed Bret.
All right, Chris, you next.
Well, Bret has never been called a virus in the locker room. Bret ain't never shown no hostility like he was going to take that belt and do anything like that. But what Bret has done was become a 5-time champion for you, wrestle, be a locker room leader, and be that guy that followed all the footsteps. Shawn Michaels is the guy that was causing problems in the locker room. Shawn Michaels was the virus at the time, the drug addict. This is the guy you couldn't trust. This is why they used that guy for the screw job. They couldn't have asked The Undertaker to do it, but they wouldn't have had to ask The Undertaker to do it because Bret said, I'll drop the belt to anybody, anywhere, meaning in Montreal. They could have did the honorable thing, had him drop it to somebody like The Undertaker, who was already feuding with Shawn Michaels, let Bret Hart tell Montreal goodbye, have his little waves, have a feud start with Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker, get the belt off him and do the Stone Cold thing. But no, they want to do it like this. And the reason why I know it's Vince's fault is because after they screwed him and tried to say it was Bret's fault, everybody looks stupid. Vince looked stupid on TV when he came out and said it. Bret looks stupid because he's spitting and throwing stuff in people's face. The whole Shawn looked stupid, acting like he didn't know what was going on. Everybody looked crazy. That's why it's Vince's fault.
All right.
Vince screwed Vince.
Mastermind.
How the fuck I'm supposed to follow that?
You ready for Rob to follow it? Did you go?
No, I mean he just told it like it is. It was right. I hate doing it, but I gotta agree with him because I was always thinking it was wrong on him to do that to him, and then I started, once I started being in the ring and then running shows, it's like now I'm understanding why Vince did what he did. I mean, yeah, Vince got the lube out on him. He screwed him, but Bret screwed himself even better. I mean, he did it to himself. He should have did the right thing. He should have did the right thing, and he didn't. And even though I respect the man 100%, love his wrestling talent, he did it to himself.
All right, Rob, what's your take?
Well, let's put this out on the table. Everyone involved in this whole situation was 100% childish, and it all could have been avoided from the jump. And I agree with Jim Cornette when he said, he looked at Vince and said, why in the hell didn't you take the belt off of him before you let him negotiate with Bischoff?
Yeah.
That was the reason that the whole damn thing happened. Now, WWE got lucky because they used this to birth the Attitude Era. We all know that that was a happy accident for WWF. Otherwise, they might have gone out of business. They had this controversy and they had ECW to rip off. But when it comes down to who was ultimately responsible for this whole fiasco, I'm sorry, but it all has to fall on Vince McMahon. The buck stops at the home office. Bret was taking himself too seriously. Shawn was a drug addict prima donna. He was basically being the Axl Rose of wrestling. And when you had a volatile mixture like that, there were other ways that it could have been handled before we got to Survivor Series. And there were any number of ways of doing it that would have made both guys look good or at least palatable before Bret left. And the fact that Vince McMahon could not take care of that without basically destroying Bret's marketability on the way out the door makes me say that he isn't the creative genius that we all thought he was, even at that time. So the buck stops at the Oval Office. So Vince screwed Bret. I'm taking Bret's side here.
Yeah, I agree, Rob.
Right. My turn. Bret screwed Bret. Vince did not screw Bret. Bret screwed Bret. The one person I completely agree with is Jim Cornette, though, because they should have took the title off of him before they negotiated the deal.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen. Vince McMahon is in the middle of a war that he is losing. He already had a title dropped on Nitro once. No, I'm not letting Bret win that match. I'm not letting Bret Hart walk out of Survivor Series with that title, knowing I already had one of my titles dropped on Nitro. No, he was in the middle of a war. Luger showing up, he didn't know it on Nitro. All the stuff that was going on during the war, and we all know Eric Bischoff played dirty. Y'all can talk about the character of Bret Hart all you want. Medusa didn't want to drop the title on Nitro. You know what Eric Bischoff said? You want this job, you will. As much character as Bret Hart might have, he wanted that contract. If Eric Bischoff said, hey, bring that title over there, or you ain't got this contract, he was going to do it. They're in the middle of a war. And Bret can't dictate how you go out. Nobody dictates how you go out. I get he would have rather drop the titles than anybody else. Guess what? That's not your call. That is not your show. You are not the owner of WWE. You are not in charge of the creative moving forward. Was Shawn Michaels a drug addict dick? Absolutely, he was. Guess what? He was a drug addict dick that Vince McMahon was putting his money into moving forward when Bret was gone. It was not Bret's call. Bret was leaving. You do what the promoters say to do. Everybody has done it time and time again before him. Bret Hart is not the first champion to have to drop a title before he leave a company. And the fact that he refused to do business when he's leaving, Bret screwed Bret. They're in the middle of a war. I'm 1,000% behind Vince McMahon and what he did, because he could not let Bret Hart leave that pay-per-view with that title. Not in the middle of that war. Really can do it anytime, but damn sure not in the middle of that war.
I find it hard to believe that he didn't have some control over some of his creative, and you got Mankind throwing himself off of the damn top of the cage. So
we talking about Bret Hart having some control?
Yeah, I just find it hard to believe. That's why I'm saying they had to screw him. He thought he was going to win that match. So I think he thought he had control over his creative. He thought he was going to win that match. And
when
they
you become a WCW employee, you don't have no creative control.
No, Hogan and all them had creative control. That's why they were running rampant all over the place.
WWE.
That's what I'm saying. I think Bret Hart thought he had creative control, and he called the match and thought he was going to win that match. I think he called that. Put me in my sharpshooter, and I'm going to do this. And then when he heard that bell ring, it caught his ass off guard. Like, what the hell? That's what I'm saying.
But that match was booked for Bret to drop the title to Shawn Michaels.
No, it was booked. He didn't know. That's why it's a screw job. He didn't know.
No, he did know. He didn't want to do it, and they were like, "Okay, fine, we'll do it your way."
That's what I'm saying. He thought he had creative control.
Everybody in this situation should have known better. Bret should have known what the hell was going on and what he was supposed to do and how to save face, and Vince McMahon should have known that he had two volatile talents who hated each other's guts and should never have been in that ring in the first place.
Right.
They got lucky that the whole thing worked out because they had Austin waiting in the wings to get over, but
and you had the biggest villain ever created after that.
Exactly, and everybody noticed that Vince was an absolutely ruthless SOB after all of that was done, but the point is that everybody in that situation was acting like a prima donna, and Vince McMahon should have taken charge and looked at Bret and said, the belt is going on Shawn, whether you like it or not, and bottom line, either you drop it before you leave, or I'm stripping it of you right here and now. It should have been. That's what Vince should have done. He should have stepped up instead of trying to finesse it to where to get the match into the ring with two people that couldn't stand each other and shouldn't have been working together in the first place.
Right.
But isn't that what promoters do? Finesse the situation to get the match that you want.
Well, that's why I think that Bret thought he controlled the situation. He probably was like, "No, I'm not dropping the belt." And they were like, "Okay,
well, that
okay,
is
Bret, go ahead. You're going to win."
Right. That's exactly how it was. Like, hey, what you drop to Shawn Michaels? You're not dropping to Shawn Michaels. Okay.
It is what promoters do, but sometimes it's not the right decision.
It is.
yeah, sometimes you have to to make a different plan in order to make something work. In this case, they got lucky.
Yeah.
Damn lucky.
Yeah.
But if it were me, I would have found a different way.
This is when I found out Vince was the boss. I didn't know Vince owned everything.
We all
That's
find
when
out.
I found out. I was like, he's the boss? What?
But looking at Vince's history from the time he took over in the early 80s to 1997, what the hell was anybody thinking in Vince McMahon's character that made you think that he would have did it the nice way?
Right.
Vince McMahon stole this company from his daddy.
His daddy was dying, though.
But he stole the company from his daddy and straight up lied. This man lied to his own daddy. Why the fuck would he lie to Bret Hart?
He is ruthless, and Bret should have seen it coming. That's true.
Especially in the middle of a war, though.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Do we have any? How long before we got an interview?
I'm waiting to see what's going on. I say go ahead.
We're ahead of schedule, ain't we?
Yeah.
Oh, no, we're right on schedule. We're at the time for the interviews. But here's what we're going to do, because after the interviews, we was going to do what was better. We'll throw some scenarios out there. Everybody debate on it. We'll do a couple of those as we wait for. I know the 510 is going to be joining us in 10 minutes. So let's jump into this.
All right.
We're going to start with a fun one. One that's near and dear to my heart. And it's about Hulk Hogan. So Rob's going to take the lead on this. What was better? What was the better Hulk Hogan match? I narrowed it down to two. WrestleMania 5, Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior, where we saw the Warrior hosting both belts up in the air. Or Monday Nitro.
That was 6, not 5.
Oh, that was 6? Okay, 6. Yeah. Or Monday Nitro, Hogan versus Goldberg. That saw Goldberg hosting both belts up in the air. Which match was better?
Jeez.
Rob, take it away.
Holy cow. You're tripping, bro.
Thank you for joining us on FTW Future Focus.
That's right. Oh, shit.
Signing off early today. No,
Damn,
no.
Tony.
Okay.
Ugh.
I'll answer this truthfully.
I don't want to.
Even though I was never, I have not a fan of the Hogan versus Warrior match, but I'm sorry, it was far superior to anything that Goldberg did in WCW, bar none. I mean, I understand that Goldberg was a huge draw, and I understand why. But I'm sorry, Jim Hellwig had more talent in his little finger than Goldberg has in his whole erecta set.
Are you smoking too, Rob?
He's tripping, man. Rob's on crack.
I'm serious. The Warrior
Never mind.
The Warrior knew how to have a good match with Hogan. Goldberg never knew how to have a good match with anybody. He went in there, he destroyed him in 3 minutes, and it's a lousy match every damn time. His intros last longer than the match, and that sucks. So if I've got to choose between arsenic and iodine, then I'll choose the arsenic and say Hogan versus Warrior Mania 6 was the better match.
Okay.
Because they actually had a match. Goldberg just went in there and beat. He just had his 2-3 freaking moves and then left. So yeah, Hogan Warrior.
Can I go next?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Because the Ultimate Warrior only has 2-3 clothesline, punch, press. I think, is that it? Did I miss one, guys?
No.
The Goldberg match, first it caught us off guard because it was on TV. Because they should have saved that for a pay-per-view. I couldn't believe it was on Nitro. But the pop of that crowd in Atlanta, and when Goldberg put Hogan up, I mean, I lost it. I marked out. I ain't gonna lie. I was a Goldberg fan, and I watched Goldberg for 3 minutes over any Ultimate Warrior match in the history of wrestling. That's just me. So give me Goldberg's 3-minute matches, and he had some good ones. I'm back flipping off of the ring post and catching boys into the spear. I've seen them all. Give me the Goldberg Hulk Hogan match any day of the week.
And just for the record, though, that match was not 3 minutes. That was like a 10
it
or 15
wasn't.
minute match.
They actually went at it, but Goldberg,
they
that
ending
ending
was.
was.
They wrestled like 10 or 15 minutes in that match. It was
Hogan I thought Hogan was going to try to win. He was trying to win that match.
All right, next up, Marcus.
Can I pick C, none of the above?
You can. I mean, it's your pick.
There wasn't no women in that match, Marcus.
Well, you know what?
Yeah, there was. That bitch was Hulk Hogan.
Wow.
Thank you for joining us on FTW Future Focus.
I mean, if I gotta pick, I guess I would pick the Warrior match, because at least they tried to have a match. At least they tried for them to try to tell a little bit of a story during their match. Whereas I barely remember the Goldberg match because I thought it was just so. Ugh. So I can't even give you a lot of detail. I'll pick the Warrior match.
All right, I'm gonna go next. I'm gonna say Bobby for the tiebreaker. I'm not sure which way he's leaning. All day, every day, easily Goldberg match, and y'all gonna like be shocked when I say why. Hogan performed better in this match, I think, than he did against Warrior. Hogan went out there to put on a good match. Like, it wasn't 3 minutes, Rob. It was like a good 10 minutes at least.
Yeah.
Hogan, one of the few times I've seen, he went out there to try to make a star out of Goldberg. Like, he knew he needed a mega star, and for once in his selfish piece of shit life, he actually did what's best for business that night. And I thought it made for a better night. It made for a better moment. I mean, Marcus said he don't remember. I remember that match. I marked the fuck out on that too. And what could have made Warrior Hogan better would have been 1997 Bobby Heenan on commentary. Because Bobby Heenan on commentary was just as big as Goldberg and Hogan in that match. He put them over. He put that match over. He put the moment over. It was wasted on free TV, but Bischoff, in his head, he was more interested in Nitro ratings than pay-per-view buys.
Right.
That's the only reason why we had that last-minute shit, though. But the way it went, I just felt like that was just better. And I got to give a double his credit, though. As much as a low-life piece of shit that he is, and we clean it up so I'm not going to go into more of my Hogan shit, Hogan did what was right, because Hogan was like, I need another big star, and he went out there to make Goldberg a star. Goldberg is green as hell. So I get what you're saying, Rock, because Goldberg was green as hell. But Hogan made him look like $1 million in that match.
Yeah, he did.
It will take me like some whiskey and other various substances, but I'll have to watch both of those matches again.
It's hard to watch. For me, it's hard to watch the Warrior match.
I can't watch the Warrior.
The Warrior Hogan match.
The Mania 6 match was pretty damn good, I thought.
If you compare it to Halloween Havoc, yes.
Two guys that don't sell for each other, it's hard to watch.
Oh my God. Gilbert versus Barry Horowitz would have looked good compared to the Halloween Havoc match.
I'll watch that.
That was absolute dog crap. That was half the Jackass match.
Let's let Bobby break the...
If you compare it to Halloween Havoc, I mean, Warrior Hogan was Savage Steamboat.
Bobby, please help us.
Break the tie, Bobby. Break the tie.
Oh God,
I
gotta break the tie. Oh God, I gotta break this tie right quick because our guest is getting on right now.
Okay, cool.
Hogan and Warrior, and what was the other one?
Hogan and
Nitro. Goldberg. Atlanta, Georgia. Nitro. Bobby Heenan on commentary.
The one I can't stand.
But if you pick the one you can't stand, then the other one wins. So
the one I don't like was the Hogan Warrior. That was I didn't like that one. I didn't like Hogan Warrior. Hogan Goldberg was better. It was just the Goldberg coming in and just taking over that legacy was kind of tight. So I give it to him.
All right, cool.
Yeah. But, ladies and gentlemen, we are here right now. We got my interview segment on there, and I'm going to introduce to you somebody that I have done some shows with. This guy is an excellent talent. He has an independent star. He has been all over doing all types of wrestling. He even does death matches. This man is nuts. This man will take you in so many different directions. So let me go ahead and introduce you to the one and the only Zodiac. Zodiac, What's going on, bro?
Hey, what's going on, Bubba?
Nothing much, man. Nothing much. Good to have you on, man.
Thanks for having me.
I have told people about the old school. I have told people about, being an independent wrestler, certain joys that we have. And you seem to come up a lot within our conversations because you met my correspondent, the Gadgetman right there, and everybody has this aura about you. I want people to get to know you. So go ahead and just tell us where you started, how you started, and I know too many bodies to count how many you dropped, so let's just...
Oh man, I started. I've been around for a minute. I started back in '98, right out of high school. Actually, I started up at the Northern Wrestling Federation in Cincinnati, Ohio. They were in Fairfax, Ohio, at the time. So I ran into Prince Justice, who then later became a Biss, Chris Parks. He was at a flea market. They had a wrestle shop there, a wrestle booth in the flea market. Got talking to him. Came and checked out a show at Peel's Palace. He gave me a flyer for it. Gave me the information to Bone Crusher's School, which still runs up in Cincinnati. Went to the show, got talking with people, got hooked, went and tried out. And that was a wrap from there. 20 some odd years later, I'm still right here. So.
I'm telling you. Let me go ahead and ask you. So your style, describe your style when you're in the ring. What's your style? Are you ground and pound, technical? It's kind of a combination of Memphis wrestling and Old Kings Road wrestling from Japan. I do more storytelling, but kind of that gritty, older Memphis storytelling. Right.
More solid type work. I can do lucha. I can do a little bit of everything just because I was cross-trained that way. That's what I learned over years, just to be versatile. But for the most part, more of kind of a heavy-handed Memphis style, pretty much.
That's pretty tight. Now, I have seen you in the ring against many competitors. I really wish that I could have gotten in the ring with you because I think I could have learned so darn much.
Yeah, we never got to tussle at all.
No, we didn't, man. I wanted to learn so much from you. But who would you say would have been the best matches you have always that you had to say the one match you've had?
The best matches that I've had?
Yeah.
I got to do a run with Abyss. That was fun because that was one of the guys that helped train me. Because he was Roger Ruffin's main trainer at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a lot of fun. For the younger guys, I always like getting there with Shane Mercer. If you guys follow him.
Yes.
Oddly enough, Boogie Man was always one of my favorite guys to get in there with when he was still running.
Mm-hmm.
I liked working with a lot of the old guys. Worked with Duggan once, Hacksaw. He was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Got to do a tag match with Powers of Pain, Warlord and Barbarian. That was a bucket list match. That was a lot of fun. So I don't know. I've been kind of blessed in that aspect. I got to work with the Rock and Roll Express once, doing a tag. That was a good time. So
that's cool. So what's the plans for the Zodiac right now? What you getting into right now?
I'm actually at New South Wrestling in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. I'm wrestling tonight. It's me and Dylan Bostic. Bostic's another guy. Yeah, he's another one's been around for a while. He just started getting back in the groove wrestling. Two totally different kind of styles, so this should be fun. Looking forward to it. We were supposed to wrestle 2 weeks ago, but a storm hit the building and it knocked the power out in part of Lawrenceburg, Lexington, Frankfurt. So that was just wasn't meant to be. So we're running it back this week. And then after that, I have about 2 weeks off. I'm taking a little bit of a hiatus for a couple weeks, take care of some stuff at home, revamp a little bit, heal up, and then get back at it. So.
Zodiac, I had a quick question for you. You said that you do a lot of hardcore and some deathmatch stuff. You also you mentioned that you like old Memphis style. What do you feel is the biggest difference between the two, and which do you lean toward more?
I lean more towards the Memphis stuff. I haven't done deathmatch stuff in a while, and when I did, it was very limited. I did a couple tournaments and stuff like that. I don't do a lot of glass or anything, especially now, just because I have so much other stuff going on. I can't, the risk versus reward, I can't take those risks. So when I do like hardcore style matches or anything like that, it's more of a fight style, strong style, things like that. Kings Road, it's just very physical. The difference wise is one, you get cut up and hurt a lot more than you do in a Memphis wrestling. But if you look at guys like John Wayne Murdoch and a couple of those guys that do deathmatch stuff, they tell a story with it. There's an art form to it and a right and wrong way to do it. You got some guys that are just hack and slash guys, which is fine too. I like all styles of wrestling. I always have. Comedy, deathmatch, hardcore, technical, lucha, Memphis. There's a spot for all of them. I like all of them for various reasons. But yeah, Memphis is more safe, I guess you could say, as opposed to you're getting out there with tubes, glass, gussets, tacks, this and that. I never did a lot of glass. Mine was mainly tacks. I do gusset plates, things like that. Barbed wire. I like barbed wire because of the old Dusty and Tully matches and Sabu matches. So,
trash cans.
Yeah, trash cans, chairs. Get creative with it. You know, I like to set stories up with the gimmicks and everything else, whatever we're using.
Sweet.
Man.
That whole niche of deathmatch wrestling is kind of picking up a little bit of steam. It's a smaller circle niche. I think it's gotten a little bit people have gotten a little bit desensitized to it anymore because there's so much of it now and you see a lot more of it. But a lot of the guys that do it don't get enough credit, that's for sure.
They sure don't.
The guys that do it properly, I should say.
Yeah, okay, I agree with you on that too. Well, what's coming up for the Zodiac in the next couple of weeks? You just taking some time off, and then where's the next place you're gonna be, man?
Let's see. I'm at EPW in Frankfort. Frankfort? They're either in Frankfort or Versailles, Kentucky. August 5th. I can't remember my full schedule. Shoot. I've got Destination 6 coming up, which I'm looking forward to. Sam Knight runs that. That's a good one.
That's my boy.
Yeah, that'll be my debut there. So I'm looking forward to that. They told me who I'm working with. They haven't announced it yet, so I can't say who I'm wrestling yet. But as long as it doesn't change, I'm looking forward to that. What else? I'd have to look at my schedule. I can't remember what else I got coming up. But I'll post it up on my Facebook page and on Twitter and stuff. Next, and I'll be back at New South too. I'm here every 2 weeks for the most part, unless something comes up. This is one of my home places.
Hold on, I got my buddy Tony got a question for you. Motown, what's up?
Okay, there's a question I have for you that I'm actually going to ask the panel later on in the show. But when you mentioned the Rock and Roll Express, I kind of want to ask you.
Okay.
The one thing I want to ask the group is, who do you think was the better Express team, the Rock and Roll Express or Midnight Express? You worked with the Rock and Roll Express. I'm sure you've seen the Midnight Express. Who would you pick between that two?
Me personally, Midnight Express.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Bobby Eaton was a national treasure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I've gotten to work with Bobby. I never got to work with them as a team. I liked Bobby and Stan Lane, but Dennis Condrey was also dope. So.
Yeah. Okay. That'd be kind of cool to get your input since you did work with the Rock and Roll.
Them and Jim Cornette. It's hard to beat them together, though. Yeah, I liked, the tag teams like that because you had Midnight Express, which is always great. Rock and Roll Express, the Fantastics, the Fabulous Ones.
Yes.
The Nightmares and all them. Like, yeah, you put those guys together. There was a reason they were selling out arenas back then, and would still sell them now. So.
Yeah.
The Road Warriors.
Oh. Yeah.
I mean, it was nice when you had tag teams selling out.
What's that?
It was nice just having tag teams selling out.
Yeah.
Well, Zodiac, I know you're busy. You had a show. We're gonna let you get back. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, thanks, brother.
Dude. I gotta come see you. We gotta come see you.
Yeah, come out and see me. Maybe we'll do a live or something or whatnot, and we'll get a longer thing in and stuff.
Oh, for sure.
And tell Sam we said hi.
Oh,
yes.
Definitely. Yeah, I'll see him at the end of middle of August. I think it's the 16th, something like that.
Yeah, tell him. Oh, okay. If you don't tell him before I do, tell him I got to holler at him about something.
Okay. Oh, I talk to him every week. But
oh, yeah, tell him I got to holler at him. Tell him to get in touch with me.
Sounds good to me.
All right, bro. Thank you for being on, ladies and gentlemen. The one, the only, the Zodiac.
Guys,
is
take
the
care.
man.
Yep. Thanks, brother.
All right, thank you.
Amen.
That was
Yeah,
cool. He's cool.
Yeah.
And he's got a few belts too. He's got tag belt. He's champion in another one. He's doing his thing.
This is
Bobby, have I called for Zodiac before? I think I have.
I think you have twice.
Yes.
I think you've called twice for him. This is the one thing, and this is why I'm bringing this on these segments. We got old school segments. I do women segments. Is because we got independent wrestlers out there that are busting their butt that are awesome.
Yeah.
These guys work their butt off. These guys put on matches that you would swear that you're almost watching WWE and AEW. That's one of the dudes right there. That dude gets down.
Oh, great entrance too.
Oh yeah. Entrance is on point. So my thing is this, man. Y'all ever get out there? Y'all see the Zodiac in an independent card? Make that trip. Go to that show. Support that man because that man is awesome.
99% of what you see in the big leagues comes from the independents. So support your local wrestling promotion.
You're good at local promotions.
Absolutely.
Because they doing their thing, man.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I am geeked up for Detroit August 5th. I am not denying that. I'm geeked up for it. I feel like I am the luckiest man on earth right now.
I wish I could go.
It all the card panned out as well as it did.
I got to get my eye fixed before I can travel.
I can't see
it sounds like a running joke, bro. I don't know why.
That is my last day in my 40s.
I just want you to get your eyes fixed, man.
Hey, it's getting close. I've got insurance now. I'm going to reschedule tomorrow, and then we'll see where.
Do they really make like the bionic cyber stuff? I want you to have like a smart eye, like an iPhone eye that just does everything.
I want him to have a Terminator eye. That Terminator eye that like scans stuff.
You know what I'm saying?
No.
He can analyze shit when he looks at it.
Rob, let me tell you something. If you're going to get some type of implant like that, you're going to go my way with Mortal Kombat with Kano, the laser eye.
That'd be so dope.
Actually, I was going to get an FM AM set up. And
a Google eye.
Yeah, walk eye.
A Google eye.
Walk, so I could plug it into my ear and listen.
We call you Googly eye. Get a Google eye.
Wow.
Thank you for joining us on FTW Future Focus.
Oh,
God.
What's the next subject, Tony?
Hold on. Let me say something right quick. I got something on the chat. I want to say thank you, John, for being on. It's cool as I don't know what. Thank you. And yeah, it is. I'm glad you enjoyed the interview because these are guys and ladies that I'm going to bring that people don't know and they should know. So keep it tuned. Tell your friends and stuff to come through. But sorry about that, Tony. Go ahead.
All right, y'all already know the next question.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
When he mentioned the Rock and Roll Express, I wanted another opinion though, so I'm happy I was able to ask him that though. But it's y'all's turn now. Which express was better, the Rock and Roll Express or the Midnight Express? And Rob is kicking this off.
Okay. Everybody knows that I am a fan of baby faces, and
That's why you're kicking it off.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give it to the Rock and Roll on this one. That doesn't mean that the Midnight Express was not the perfect foil for them. The Rock and Roll and the Midnight go together like peanut butter and jelly. You gotta have a good heel team to make the Rock and Roll look good. But Ricky and Robert were just a one-of-a-kind team.
Yeah, they were.
And they fit together as a team like a hand and glove, and they could make an audience, especially women, just fall in love with them to the point where when Ricky was getting his ass kicked, everybody in that building was 100% behind him. And I don't know of any tag team that was ever able to accomplish that to that degree. So as great as the Midnight were in all their forms, I got to give it to the Rock and Roll on this one.
That's a good point, Rob.
No, definitely. Chris, you next.
And who could sell better than Ricky Morton?
Man.
In the world, period. To this day, who could sell? And they still wrestle. I mean, they still wrestle.
Well, okay, Ricky still does. Robert retired.
But
he did.
I gotta go.
Robert's done. Yeah,
I gotta go with the Midnight Express, and and it's not the Rock and Roll Express. I mean, they were perfect foils, but the matches I remember are against the Four Horsemen and the Road Warriors. And I'm gonna say the scaffold match might be the best match I've ever, and scariest matches that I remember from the 80s.
Like
Against the Road
scary.
Warriors.
Like
legit
scary.
And then the fact that when you say Midnight Express, I include Jim Cornette. It's a package deal.
Yes.
Like the whole package just works. They were so innovative. They did moves we never seen before. Flapjacks we never seen before. The move with Stan Lane was doing karate. I don't know if he really knew karate or not. He was doing karate moves and they were doing flying leg. That flying knee that Bobby used to do off the top rope. I mean, I was just Bobby Eaton's one of my favorite wrestlers. When we talk about underrated, that's one of the most underrated wrestling superstars of all time. But the Midnight Express could mix it up with the Rock and Roll Express and the Road Warriors. I think that's kind of unique. You know what I mean? So I got them down as probably, if not the greatest tag team of all time, they're one or two. So I got the Midnight Express.
All right, cool. Marcus, you up?
Well, I got to piggyback off exactly what Chris said. I'm going with the Midnight because they work well with anybody and they make everybody look good. I'm gonna tell you, when I was growing up, I thought the Rock and Roll Express sucked. I'm gonna be honest with you. I did not. I could not get into them. I thought that double drop kick was a lousy finisher because it wasn't even a good. They didn't even do a good. Neither one of them did either good drop kick as far as I was concerned. But I didn't until I got older. Was I got to learn to appreciate them. But even back then, I thought the Midnight was the better team. I thought, and you add Cornette into it, and then you switch out Lane with Condrey. I'm not sure if you could have brought anybody in and matched them up with Ricky or Robert, and they could have had the same level of success. That's why I'm picking the Midnight.
Man, I will say this. I have more appreciation for Rock and Roll Express as I got older than I did back then, for the same reason you said.
Yeah.
Mastermind, what's your pick?
Well, it's obvious what my pick should be. It's Midnight Express all day long. These guys were just off the charts. I too could not stand the Rock and Roll Express. I did not like the gimmick. I did not like them jumping up and down with fluffy hair. I could not stand Ricky Morton begging to the crowd, like, please help me. And these women, supposedly, they look like they're about 14 years old, sitting up there like, oh my God, Ricky Morton, shut the fuck, no. I did not like them whatsoever. I respect the man as a wrestler now. I've been at a seminar, you know what I'm saying? I mean, the man, I don't get me wrong, I liked him. But back then, when I don't know how old, a wee tyke, the Midnight Express were the team that would come in and whoop that ass.
Yeah.
And then if you tried to get out of line, they was going to cheat to keep whooping your ass. And Jim Cornette could talk mad shit. I mean, it was just, Cornette was the man. You know, Cornette was yesterday's Paul. Well, it's today's Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, yes, DeMarcus, don't do that.
No,
don't do that. 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 Don't do it. Don't do it. Because I would debate my butt off on that one.
Next time.
All right, we got a new one. Cornette versus Heyman.
One.
Write it down,
Write
Tony.
it down.
Marcus is undefeated too. Marcus is undefeated.
The August show?
Man.
Yeah.
Oh dear God.
Man.
So,
hey,
save it for August. Save it for next month.
Yeah.
Jay Uso pinned the tribal chief. I can get Goldberg right here. I ain't tripping.
Oh, I can't wait for
that
August.
one can go either way. That battle can go either way. That's a true battle.
Y'all gonna finish this next month.
Man.
Yeah, save that energy.
Man,
Okay,
Bobby,
Tony,
do you really want to do this again?
He gonna talk trash.
Oh
Talk
my
trash.
God.
Talk
Joining us on FTW.
And so
Talk trash.
I mean, Bobby,
I can't
my
wait.
My footprint is still on your ass still.
This is a pay-per-view. We got to charge for this one. We need to do a super chat. We got to charge for that show.
He talking trash too?
Chris.
$10.99, baby.
This man don't say much, but when he says it, it's like, bam!
Undefeated, yo. My money's on Marcus, yo.
Oh man.
Hey,
Good
go
choice.
ahead, do it. I'll take
I
it
gotta
all.
go with the odds.
Okay.
This one I'm very confident in. So I
It
ain't
can
worried
go
about
either
it.
way. It's a 50-50.
His undefeated streak is done.
Well, Tony, who do you got?
I'm a lot like Marcus. I was not a fan of the Rock and Roll Express back in the day. And I'll be honest with you, I really felt like Ricky Morton was a weak link of the team because all he did was get his ass whooped.
Yep.
Yeah.
Beat that ass.
Set up the hot tag.
And my mom's ex-husband, David, when we were watching it, because he's the one that got me into, like, he's the one who introduced me to WCW Saturday night. And as a kid, it's like, you kind of drawn to the Rock and Roll Express, but he was like, I was kind of leaning towards the Midnight, and he was just like, look at the moves that the Midnight's doing, the flapjack, the rocket launcher, like, all the stuff, all the time. He's like, they got a lame-ass double drop kick.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
My pick, and I'm gonna specify this. Beautiful Bobby Eaton and Sweet Stan Lane.
Okay, I got what you're saying. I can dig that.
Yeah.
I
I
can
think
dig
it's
that.
the original version was a closer one, but man, when they took out Dennis Condrey and plugged in Stan Lane, and honestly, when they did, I'm like, I'm not sure how this is gonna work. Man, John Cornette was a genius when he made that switch.
One honorable mention, though. There was a third version of the Midnight Express.
Yeah, the original
in
one
the
before
AWA.
Bobby Eaton, yes.
Dennis Condrey and Randy Rose, who were the original Midnight Express
Yeah.
in Memphis, managed by Paulie Dangerously, and they feuded with the Midnight Rockers, Jannetty and Michaels. Go back
Yeah.
and look at those matches. They were good. They were damn good.
But my pick is Beautiful Bobby. The Gangster of Love and the Sultan of Swing. That's my pick right there.
Okay.
Pimps. They were pimps,
Yeah.
and they were proud to be pimps.
Oh, how could it not be?
Just like
All right.
Just like I'm gonna pimp this win next week on your ass, Marcus. Keep on.
Bobby, acknowledge your day.
Thank you for joining us on FTW Future
Oh.
Focus.
Oh, get your popcorn ready. We got to charge for this one.
Oh yeah, we might have to pay per view. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Next question. Now, this one, forgive me, everybody who's watching, all the higher ups. This is going to be a little. We're going to push the envelope on this one. Get ready, Rob. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, God.
Oh.
I'm gonna clean up the question a little bit, though, okay? Because what I originally wrote down, I'm gonna try to clean the question up.
Yeah, we don't need to get back to 300 today.
But the two participants are Lita and Sonny.
Hmm.
Who was friendlier in the locker room?
Hmm.
Thank you for joining us on FTW Future Focus.
Mhm.
Holy God. Wow.
Are we talking about rumors and accusations or what we know for sure?
What we know? I mean, if you believe the rumors, because who was the bigger who was the bigger slut?
Wow.
Did you say who's first?
I said you were first.
Oh snap! Okay. Okay. So one got busy in a bed in the middle of the ring on Raw, and the other had a different tag team every week, and was with Shawn Michaels, and then Candido, and then Vince McMahon, and then
And
back with Shawn Michaels, and then Bret Hart.
rumor is Sunny Days.
I gotta go with Sonny because well, this is the reason why. Number one, she was fine in the motherfucker. Sonny looked better.
My God, yes.
That's number one. Number
If I was
two,
a wrestler, I would have did her.
well, number two, Ain't nobody got that gonna be the manager of that many tag teams in her. How come every tag team she sucked off, that she managed, won the tag team titles? It's just a coincidence. I'm just saying. I don't understand. Every tag team she was the manager of won the title. So I gotta go with Sonny.
All right.
Thank you for joining us on FTW Future Focus. I could barely get it out.
But he was telling the truth though.
I didn't. He added a little bit to it. Rob, you next.
Oh, good God. I'm gonna have to give it to Sonny because really, Lita. The only thing that we know about for sure is that Lita screwed around with Edge behind Matt Hardy's back, and that's how she got that reputation in the first place. What she did before that or after that, or specifically who she was doing, I haven't the slightest idea. But we do know that Sonny had a sordid history, not only with horizontal refreshment, but also with
Thank you for joining us today with the horizontal refreshment.
She was also not.
Oh my God!
Thank you for joining us
Oh my
at Horizontal Refreshment Bar, where everything comes at you from the side.
Oh,
Thank you for joining us. That's 12.
oh, that's a bar I need to go to, Rob.
We need to start that bar. But anyway.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh my God, help me.
But no, Sonny was not only active, but she was also had like as rotten of an attitude as Sable did. So in this particular instance, I've got to give it to Sonny.
I don't know if I agree with the last statement, but Marcus, you next. I think Sable was worse with the attitude.
Yeah, I was trying to think. I don't remember Lita with anybody other than
she was saying at one time.
Edge and
Matt.
That's the only two I can remember.
And
So I'm going with Sonny only because we understand there was a number of guys she screwed. So I'm picking Sonny.
Mastermind.
Every time Sonny comes out of a door, I just hear a song and it says, "She's a hoe." Every time Sonny does it, I look at Lita as a hoe in training. She's not even there yet. You know what I'm saying? Sonny knew what the hell she was doing. She was an expert. So I got to give it to Sonny all day long. Sonny wins that one hands down.
All right, my pick. It ain't going to be a clean sweep.
Oh, man.
And the reason why I'm picking Lita is for two reasons. Number one, Sonny did a lot of shit. A whole lot of shit. Some of it you can find on Pornhub. But the level that Lita did it to and the impact that it actually had on wrestling.
Oh, I got to give you props on that. I got to give you props on that 100%. I give it to you. Go ahead. Sorry.
It just, her whole win just hit the industry harder. Hydra wise, it's Edge. Sonny did way more, and I get it because in all honesty, if I was a wrestler, I'd choice between Lita and Sonny. I'm fucking Sonny back then in the '90s. Sonny was my boo, and Lita had karma hit her in her face too, because Lita was dating CM Punk before AJ.
See, that's the name. But what about Stephanie and all her hold'em?
Well, Stephanie wasn't in this one.
Hold on, but
that's the $1 billion princess.
Yeah, I mean, what you expect her to do?
I'm just saying, she had first hand at all the wrestlers.
I bet you she did have her hand on all the wrestlers. Oh, sorry.
Thank you for joining us on FTW Future Focus. Oh, dear God.
All right, next question. Everybody went, right?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. This one is going to kind of go along with what we were talking about with Nitro and the Monday Night Wars earlier, even though it was more about who's through Bret. But this one, I'm talking about, and there's going to be three choices. What was the bigger Nitro debut? The reason why there's three, because I didn't want to knock Rick Rude out of it. Because Rick Rude was on Nitro and Raw on the same night.
Bing.
Lex Luger's debuting on the very first episode of Nitro set them off.
You choked.
And the other debut I have is Medusa showing up and throwing the women's title in the trash.
That was interesting.
Which one of those three were better? Chris, go first.
Well, the Rude one for me, because it proved Raw wasn't live. And they were trying to tell us it was live. They recorded that shit. Because we were like, one of these shows is live, but they were both recorded on opposite days, and they're playing on the same day. Because I was sitting there like, hold up. Didn't it be Rude? Oh, wait a minute, hold up. I had to fuck up. Wait a minute, hold up. Because I take one show and I watch the other one. I really thought I was tripping. Like, I go, no, he was on Nitro. No. He was on Raw. No. And then the first magazine that came out, they were talking about Rude was on both shows, and Nitro was really recorded and wasn't live. Or not Nitro, Raw.
Raw. Yeah, Raw.
So it's another thing. McMahon was lying to the consumer again, telling us one thing and doing the other thing. And then when you go to a show and they was telling us SmackDown was live, and when I seen them change the things and do Raw and SmackDown on the same night, the first time I ever seen them do that crap, I was like, hold up. Like, so you can't believe anything WWE does today. The only thing we can believe is he sold the company, but he still runs the company, so I can't even believe that. You know what I'm saying?
It's like he got more power now than before.
Yeah.
Like,
how you sell your
company,
Wait,
but he
Chris,
still owns the company.
Chris, how do you sell your shit and keep your shit?
I don't know. But McMahon did so.
And make $21 billion doing it.
So
You
yeah,
cannot tell me that this man. You
You
cannot tell me. Y'all can bash Vince McMahon all you want. You can't tell me this man's is not a genius. He sold his shit, made all this money, and he still got his shit.
I said all this just to say Rick Rude.
All right. Rob, you next.
I have to give this one to the lady. Medusa throwing that belt away live on Nitro basically set the stage for the Montreal Screwjob.
Yeah.
Because if Medusa had not shown up on Nitro and disrespected that belt, then the whole thing between Bret and Vince might have been completely different. There would have been
1,000% agree with you, Rob. Preach.
Yeah, there would have been less paranoia. And plus, it's another example. WCW dropped the ball with Bret after Montreal, but they dropped the ball here too, because they could have built a complete women's division around Medusa and what she did, but she just threw away the belt and nobody gave a damn after that. It was
on Nitro.
Yeah. We talk about Vince McMahon being a genius, but yet being an ass at the same time. WCW was the same way.
Yeah.
They did one genius move and then they flushed it down the crapper.
Yeah, Eric Bischoff wasn't much better.
He was an idiot.
In a way, he was worse because he didn't succeed.
Yeah.
Well,
Bobby, you up.
Damn, this is tough.
It is.
I gotta admit, he convinced me. It's got to be Medusa.
Okay.
Medusa did change the history with that. She changed more by dropping that belt in the garbage can than any of them you could even compare what any of them did. So yeah, I got to give it to him.
Well, thank you,
Medusa.
Bobby. You gave me a win today. I appreciate that one.
Marcus, you up.
I'm going to say Luger because at the time, Luger was the biggest star of all three of them.
Luger sucks
At the time. Well, he does
at the time, though. Yes.
Yeah, but he was still a bigger star than Medusa and Rude at the time. And I remember I saw, I was like, oh shit, wait a minute. He was just on Raw the week before. Now, like
he was at the pay-per-view the night before.
Oh, right. And so then now he's on Nitro, and he didn't give his notice or nothing like that. That I mean, I kind of marked out over that. So that's why I picked Luger.
This was really hard, and I struggle with all three because I mean, if we do this podcast on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'll probably give you a different answer I'm giving you right now because that's how much I struggle with them. I'm struggling now too. Ravishing Rick Rude is my pick for the same reason Chris named though. Because I remember watching both them shows and was just like, "What the fuck." Luger showing up on Nitro was huge. Like, I was just like, that's when you knew they were there to play. Like, Luger, the war didn't start then, but that's when you knew WCW was there to play. Medusa changed so much by what she did. But for me, though, I was just like Crystal. I'm watching both shows. I had my console TV, another TV on top of it. So I'm watching both shows at the same time. In amazement, like I was confused. Like I didn't know what the hell just happened. So that's why I'm going with Rude. All right. Somebody mentioned the $1 Billion Princess earlier.
I did.
So the next who was better, and we're gonna start off with Bobby on this one. Who was better at insulting the $1 Billion Princess?
Ooh.
Y2J Chris Jericho,
Or The Rock.
Judas himself, or The Rock.
Wow.
That's fucked up, man.
Who you choose?
That's fucked up. How you gonna do some shit like that, man? That's fucked up, dude. I thought you was my boy. You gonna give me some shit like
You're
this?
the mastermind. Tony's the mad genius. We gotta start calling him the mad genius.
Fuck yeah, we gotta start calling him a fucking magic. Look at this shit he done gave me.
He done fucked us up today.
He done gave us 3 motherfuckers that you can't argue each one of them with. Jericho sound like a little princess, so I'm gonna knock him out. The Rock was comedic with his shit, and Stone Cold was just cold with his shit. Those two you can't beat. Jericho comes in way distant third. I mean, in my opinion.
So you got The Rock.
No, I can't decide between the two. I mean, I'm serious. I would have to call it a tie between the two. Different styles with same effectiveness.
Okay. Marcus, you next.
I'm gonna go with The Rock only because The Rock was hilarious and coincided so much with his feud with Triple H at the time. So I mean that just really added to it. So I'm going with The Rock.
Chris.
Well, Stone Cold stunned ass. The Rock was feuding with Triple H, but Jericho started. He was the one that was calling her the slut, the hoe. He started talking when she had the boob job. Jericho got personal, like to where Triple H wanted to kill his ass. Like Jericho, where he remembered the time he left her speechless, and the whole audience, the whole arena was calling her a slut, and she couldn't say shit. And every time she would say something, he'd be like, "Shut up!" And I was like, "Oh hell no!" Nah. I got to go with Jericho. I think he put her in her place, and they had some memorable moments. They went at it.
All right, Rob, who you got?
Well, I agree with Chris 100% in that Jericho made it really personal when it came to Stephanie. But nobody insults anybody like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I mean, being insulted by The Rock is like a compliment from anybody else.
Yeah.
When he rides your ass, you know that A, you mean something, and B, you're going to get Don Rickles at a Dean Martin roast.
Yeah.
So, but Jericho did stomp Stephanie into the ground pretty good, but The Rock could do that with everybody. So in this category, I'm going with Dwayne.
All right. One of my memorable ones, The Rock. Happy birthday to Steph. You're a hoe with big breasts. So take that night off from hooking. If you smell what The Rock is cooking. This is her happy birthday to her. I mean, it is close between them two, though, because Jericho did get personal. I mean, Rock was funny, but Jericho said shit where you were just like, I don't know if you gonna have a job after this. Triple H hated Jericho back then. I changed my pick to Jericho just for some of the fact that Triple H hated his ass because of what they were doing, and you just felt like I never felt like The Rock crossed the line to the point he was gonna lose his job. Jericho, I did.
Well, the line was different for The Rock because he was the bigger name on the marquee. But
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, nothing beats the song he sang for Vicky Guerrero.
Oh,
Do I look all right? I said no, biatch. You look horrible tonight. Yeah.
Oh, that was classic.
But the only one that can hang with The Rock was Jericho.
That's true.
They had their moments together.
I don't think Jericho's got one of the best debuts in wrestling.
Absolutely.
It wouldn't have been as good against anybody else other than The Rock.
Jericho could change his style depending on who he was with.
That's why he's one of the GOATs.
Yeah, with The Rock, he was funny. With Shawn Michaels, he was dead-ass serious. I love serious heel Chris Jericho with the suit and the belt. I mean, oh my God. Jericho's magnificent, but The Rock just insulted people better.
Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm. All right, the next question. This is going to make y'all think. Who was the better Ricky the Dragon Steamboat opponent? The Nature Boy Ric Flair or the Macho Man Randy Savage? You're going to have Mastermind kick this one off.
No doubt, Ric Flair.
Mm-hmm.
The story that whole thing told, no, man, you can't even compare that to Macho Man. That's not short and sweet. Ric Flair.
Yeah.
But we'll go Marcus next. So we pretty much got his answer.
Yeah, because I mean that's easy for me because both Flair and Steamboat said they've had several matches that weren't televised that were better than the one that we saw. So I'm going with Flair.
Chris.
I only saw the 3 matches with Flair, and I saw the 1 match with the Macho Man Randy Savage. And yes, if any of those 3 matches with Flair were on WrestleMania, they would have been top-notch WrestleMania matches. But they wouldn't have been the greatest WrestleMania match I ever saw. That match with the Macho Man was called as perfect as you can call just a match, period. Like you talk about, I know Flair and Steamboat had chemistry. They did it 3 times, 5 times, whatever number. The match I saw with the Macho Man was poetry in motion. The perfect story, heel versus face. The crowd was into it. Everything they did, they wasn't a wasted motion. I can see it in my head. Like I can't remember Flair and Steamboat's matches move for move. I can remember that Macho Man Steamboat match move for move. I gotta go with Macho Man Steamboat.
I'm gonna go next because I'm gonna say Rob for the end to break the tie. And this is no disrespect to Ric Flair and Steamboat. They've done it several times before it was televised. Their televised matches were incredible. I enjoyed the Macho Man match more than those 3 televised Steamboat matches. I was more invested into that story with the bell. Like, I mean, everything leading to it. The crust larynx. Even with George the Animal still trying to take a lift. Everything about it. And I agree with Chris. Like, if Steamboat Flair would have did it on a WrestleMania level, I'd probably have a different answer. But that was arguably the greatest WrestleMania match for a good at least 22 years. At least. And I watched that match over and over again. That was one of my all-time favorite matches. That took me from liking Randy Savage to absolutely loving Randy Savage.
Absolutely.
Steamboat and Flair, if they had never had those matches, I would have still absolutely loved Flair because Flair has done it time and time again with other people other than Steamboat. He had some phenomenal matches with Steamboat, but it was just like, when I look at those matches, I'm like, I've seen him do this with others. So the Macho Man Steamboat match to me was special because we seen Flair do it on that level time and time again. I can't honestly say I've seen Savage or Steamboat do it like that. And they only wrestle, and like you say, they only wrestle a handful of times. They didn't have a huge history with each other. So Savage is my pick. Break the tie, Rob.
Okay, we are talking about 2 brands of steak here that are both delicious, and no matter how you cook them, oh yeah. To me, this comes down to the classic nature versus nurture argument because Savage cultivated every second of that WrestleMania 3 match, whereas Flair hardly ever planned out anything with anybody he ever wrestled with. And on top of his signature spots, Steamboat sold for him like an absolute champion.
Yeah, he did.
But when it comes down to it, I have to give it to Steamboat and Flair for the 89 trilogy. As good as and I've seen more matches between Steamboat and Savage. They went around the horn before WrestleMania 3 in Maple Leaf Garden, in MSG, in Boston. They had some time to cultivate before that final matchup. And each one of them was awesome, but you could see where Savage had planned the spots. When it came to Steamboat and Flair, you knew that Flair was going to do some signature spots, but you never knew where they were going to come. And it was more of the way that Steamboat and Flair knew each other more than it was the way that Steamboat and Savage knew the match. And that's as nitpicky can get, because like I said, we're talking about masterpieces here.
It can go either way.
Yeah, Van Gogh versus Rembrandt here, but I especially the Chi-Town Rumble, which was my what I call the greatest match of all time, the first one of the trilogy. It's kind of like New Hope for Star Wars when it comes to wrestling. So that's I got to give it to Flair.
All right, we got time for one more question.
And Steamboat should have been on our honorable mention of should have got that world title in
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a superstar right there. Steamboat was charismatic, every superhero. He was Bruce Lee to us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, our last question before we wrap up this episode.
Okay.
During the Monday Night Wars, Who was the better heel? Hollywood Hulk Hogan, Kennedy McMahon. Bobby, you want to kick this one off?
No, not just kidding. God, dog. Hollywood Hogan or Vince McMahon? I'm sorry. Vince McMahon has screwed more people than Hogan could make tapes of. So, I mean.
Thank you for joining us on FTW Future Focus. Oh, my God.
I wasn't expecting that answer.
Oh.
I'm just keeping it 100. I mean,
That one hurt.
Wow. Yeah, all his 100s do hurt.
Thank you for joining us on FTW Future Focus.
That's what Vince was saying.
Up to 14.
That's what Vince was saying when he was screwing everybody. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you for joining us. We'll make it even today. Well, not even, but 15. Oh, my God.
Yeah, Vince is the big winner in that one.
Yep.
Very long shot. Yeah, by a long shot.
Bret wasn't the only hoe he screwed that.
Boy.
Thank you for joining us.
And $12 million later.
Wait, Bret was the only hoe that didn't get paid.
Thank you for joining us on
We wonder
FTW.
how many people screwed Tammy. We worried about her.
Oh, God.
That's what
All
she
right,
said
Marcus, you
afterwards.
next.
Wow. I'm going with Mr. McMahon. I mean, I think basically because the character, the boss that everybody hated, that just, fucked with you because he could. I think he just played that role perfectly. Almost like almost a little too good, as far as I'm concerned. Made me wonder how he was in real life to work for. But in a close call, I gotta go with Mr. McMahon.
Rob, who you got?
Again, this will not be a clean sweep.
What?
I'm going to give it to Hogan because, well, Vince McMahon was mostly a villain outside the ring. He was manipulating things. He was the authority figure heel, which to me it is a different mixture. That doesn't mean he wasn't a great heel. It just means that he wasn't the traditional guy. Secondly, Hogan was beloved by everybody. Well, most everybody. You guys all hated him, but he was beloved before he turned, and it broke people's hearts when he became the third man for the NWO and started the Hollywood Hogan thing. So, there's a matter of degree. You got to love someone an awful lot before you can hate them as much as people hated Hogan, burning the memorabilia and like the kids completely turning on him. Now, when the whole thing happened, I was 19, 20 years old, and I was still behind Hogan, for life. But as far as in-ring goes, and as far as how many people Hollywood let down, I got to give it to Hogan.
All right.
I'm gonna go next.
Okay.
And the reason I'm gonna go next because I'm gonna let Chris break the tie.
All right.
Because Rob swayed me. And no, you did. And but you don't understand why you swayed me. My best friend Sean, I've known Sean for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
Me, him, and his father watched wrestling. His father loved Hulk Hogan. Loved him.
Mm-hmm.
Loved him. I saw that man after Hogan turned. He was broken. That Hulk Hogan turn really broke Hogan fans.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of my white dad Bob, I felt bad that he was hurt. Fuck y'all. I enjoyed that shit. Hogan showed who he really was and crushed a lot of people in the process. Then show who he really was, and we was like, yeah, we knew it.
Well, see, I felt dirty at first, but after the reaction that he was getting from WCW fans, I didn't feel bad about it. That's why I was for life.
Me personally, I hated Vince more than Hogan, and that kind of disgusts me because I actually like the heel Hogan. But the impact, the way that Hogan crushed all the Hulkamaniacs, Vince didn't crush a lot of people like Hogan did. So that's the reason you helped me, Rob, because I was picking Vince. This is probably the first show you influenced me on. All right, go ahead and break the tie.
Okay, I'm gonna break the tie. Two things Rob said destroyed his own argument, and you just destroyed your own argument at the end, Tony. You said you liked the heel Hogan. That's why Hogan is that. No, I know. A lot of people did. Did you see all the NWO T-shirts in the audience when Hogan was supposedly heel? People still liked him. That's why he's not a bigger heel than Vince McMahon. Nobody's wearing a Vince McMahon T-shirt. He was going against Stone Cold Steve Austin. Bob said Vince was out of the. Wait, hold on. It's my turn. Rob said Vince was an out of the ring heel. No, when Vince got in the ring and Stone Cold started stunning him, Vince became an in-ring performer. Vince was in the ring. He was getting stunned by Stone Cold. He was getting choke slammed by The Undertaker. He was getting tombstone by Kane. He became an in-ring performer to the point he won the world title. Right?
I got two questions for you, Chris.
Go ahead.
How many people cried when Hogan turned heel? When
Vince
turned heel?
In '96. You said.
How many people cried? How many people cried over Hogan turning heel?
Vince not a bigger heel than Vince McMahon.
How many people threw garbage in the ring when Vince turned heel?
Where we said who's the biggest heel in wrestling history, and we all agreed it was Flair or McMahon. Remember that, Paul? We came up. We was like, it's either Vince McMahon's the greatest heel of all time or Flair. When did McMahon become a super heel? At this time, the Attitude Era that created the Attitude Era against Stone Cold Steve Austin. We tuned in because we hated Vince McMahon. We hated the Montreal Screwjob that we just talked about for 10, 20 minutes about how people hated McMahon and it created the Attitude Era by accident. Those were Rob's words. Hulk Hogan was still loved by a lot. He was wrestling with Dennis Rodman versus Carmel. People were still cheering Hulk Hogan during that time. So don't tell me he was a heel. They were wearing his T-shirt. I was doing the For Life when Hulk Hogan was a heel.
I was doing For Life now.
Look, I hate Hogan now, Rob. I was a Hulk Hogan fan when he was a heel, when he was with the NWO. I'm a closet Hulk Hogan fan when I was taking my vitamins back in the 80s when he was wrestling with Mr. T. I was on Hulk Hogan's side. So stop saying we all hated Hulk Hogan. I loved Hulk Hogan growing up. I was a wrestling fan, and Hogan was not a bigger heel because when he was a heel, I was still cheering and marking out for him. So, how big of a heel could he really have been?
Well, I guess I lost two debates today.
Chris, I like heels. I'm a natural heel person. I don't like babyface. I like heels. And I liked Hogan when he was a heel. So therefore, Vince was a bigger heel.
ECW was the NWO T-shirts. The number one shirt on WWE was Austin 316. That should tell you everything. The heels had the number one product in WCW.
I mean, Austin was a heel then too, so.
Yeah, so that broke the tie.
All right, but that wraps up the show. We passed 6 o'clock, so.
That was a good show.
Oh, yeah. I enjoyed the hell out of this. And unfortunately, I don't think WWE is going to be watching and kick us off this time, fuckers.
Yeah, that's a trip. WWE kicks that stuff off.
Well, okay, we
are now.
Well, we had a slight miscalculation on the.
This big man might not know a lot of wrestlers fans, but he knows who the fuck Tony Motown Allen is, kicking my shit off the air.
Well, I'm the one on here that criticizes WWE the most in creative terms. So your not so humble correspondent will probably not be a WWE employee anytime in this decade.
Well, hopefully we'll have our credentials and we'll be going to the shows and getting to talk and do all that stuff that Bobby's planning on. So
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Let's form a good relationship with him. We watch the program and we talk wrestling. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. We're honest.
Check this out. That's the one thing that I want to put out. I don't play no games. I tell the truth. Whether it's Tony Khan, whether it's Vince McMahon, whether it's Nick Khan,
right?
Whether it's Stephanie McMahon just had a boob job, whatever it is. My thing is I just keep it 100, and that's the way I want to keep it, because honesty is what's needed in this field, so things can get better. If WWE's listening, if Tony Khan's listening, or one of his cohorts is listening, even if it's the Young Bucks, listen, Young Bucks, you're a punk ass to me, okay? Let's just be real about it, all right? You're a fucking punk ass, all right? I'm just keeping it 100 with you, but you can improve. And my thing is, I think if you take heart and you really take into consideration what we say, you could change it around and do something decent. Omega has that talent. He proved it to me. I proved it on this show. I said, hey, you had that match with dude. Look, that was on point. I'm sorry. That was good. That was some good shit. I'm still feeling the effects of that motherfucker. I ain't even gonna lie. But if federations want us to go and kiss their ass and, oh, you're wonderful, and you're doing bullshit shit, then guess what? I guess we just won't be friends with anybody. We'll just tell it like it is and let it keep going. But yeah, he let it out. One of the surprises we're doing is we're getting actually our press credentials here. We will be officially newscast. We will go ahead and be able to broadcast from different locations, things of that nature. Marcus is in Chicago, so he's going to be probably head of Chicago market, doing the things up there, getting things together, going to shows, checking out things. I want the independence to flourish, and I think this is the way to do it. We can go ahead, we get our credentials, we do it right, and we show everybody, listen, man, this is what the independents have. WWE has this, and we're going to compare that. We're going to go to WWE shows and do the same thing. And we're going to give you a fair comparison on which one do you like better, because you never know. You can watch the FTW network and fall in love with one of the shows there. Okay? Yeah. But you can also fall in love with one of a WWE or TNA or AEW. It doesn't matter.
We follow the Jesse Ventura philosophy. We tell it like it is, no matter how much it hurts.
Exactly. So,
and we want to see good wrestling. That's the whole ideal.
Exactly. Absolutely.
So,
well, ladies and gentlemen,
wait, hold on, just Young Bucks. If you're mad and you don't like what I said, kiss my black ass. But I mean, I'm just gonna be 100 with you and just tell you the truth.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's wrap this up. Thank you for joining us, Mastermind Bobby Rogers, Chris the Gadgetman Woods, Marvelous Marcus Buckley, and our host for Old School, Tony Motown Allen. This is your not-so-humble correspondent, Robert Black, signing off for Old School. And ladies and gentlemen, let's get some James Brown.
What if I wanted to play Ludacris?
Play Luda. Let's get some Luda.
Hey, shake it up. It's Old School. Let's do it.
What about Michael Jackson?
It's Old School.
I'm just down
Oh, how you feel, brother? Feeling good. You feel good? Feeling good. It's groovy. Play so much bone, brother. How you feel, man? I feel all right. I call your name. I don't want no people to know you're in here. How you feel, fella? Hey, jam. Sure getting down. Look at him. We're gonna have a funky good time. 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 Let's take 'em up, Fred.